Hello, I am Rinalini and welcome to Never Before lecture series. These lecture series are powered by neverbefore.legal. These lecture series will be delivered by Senior Advocate S.M. Chandrasekhar. Senior Advocate S.M. Chandrasekhar has practiced over a period of 38 years, and during this time he has represented clients both before the Honorable Supreme Court of India and various other high courts. His major interests lie in the subject of constitutional law, company law, criminal law, service law and various other subject matters. In these lecture series, he will be addressing some of the most unique topics which the law fraternity has never heard before. To name a few: decriminalizing of section 138 of the Negotiable Instruments Act, constitutional torts, republic versus democracy, India is a republic, amendment, its process and evolution, two nations theory, reservation in elections is ultra vires of the constitution and the basic structure. Without any further ado, let us hear from the man himself.
In an earlier lecture, I tried to distinguish between the term republic and democracy. Further, I try to make you understand the feature that makes India a true republic. In today's lecture, we will try to analyze the evolution and the process of amendment, how numerous amendments have caused an erosion in our constitution's nature, transforming it from republic into a majoritarian run democracy. Though much water has flown, we will further investigate whether Indian constitution allows for amendment in a republic form of government. So friends, when India was still under British rule, the Constituent Assembly was constituted post Cabinet Mission Plan, assuring to settle the constitution by Indians for Indians. After the constitution of the Constituent Assembly on December 9th, 1946, the objective resolution was drawn stating that the political decision of giving into themselves a sovereign republic. Since 1950, India's legislature have slowly destroyed the morality required to make the parliamentary system work on republican mode. Despite the court's prior attempt to place a check on parliament's unchecked power, the opening 2.5 decades of republic were the worst period for the constitutional development in India. Whereas Article 13(4) was inserted, fundamental right to property was deleted, attempts were made to take away the judicial review by amendment to Article 31C, Article 368 making Article 37 OTOs. Constitution can be rigid or a liberal constitution. All the constitutional thinkers are of a belief that the power to amend the constitution is an essential feature in drafting of a constitution, and it is an essence of a written constitution, as the constitution made by one generation made not to be acceptable to a future generation. It is also stated that the constitution should be a living document, requiring changes according to the circumstances and address the situation at a future point of time. And the state constitution also requires the mode of amendment, the process of amendment, and an opportunity to express need for an amendment having regard to the constitutional values. However, with a rider that there shall not be any attempt to derogate the fundamental constitution principle. So, if the amendment are this essential, then the question emerges, that is whether an amendment to a constitution can change the independence of a citizen, generic and human right of a citizen, human dignity, virtually change the spirit of the constitution. The answer will be no, as the constitutional spirit is so fundamental, it is not and cannot be changed as per the whims and fancy of the parliament, as the fundamental right remain the same for all times to come. Any attempt to tinker with the fundamental right spirit would result in infringement of the right of a citizen. Generally, the discourse on constitutionalism is the early year resolved around the issue pertaining to the land reforms legislation, grievance of the landed upper class, and the right of property was the most litigated constitutional provision in the country and was subjected to numerous constitutional amendments. Unfortunately, many government attempts to continue advancement of property right to all citizens though its power to amend the constitution, while the apex court blocks its initiative, holding that the parliament did not have such an absolute power to amend the constitution. A list of cases are extracted for reference in the script to demonstrate the nature of the adjudication before the Supreme Court. Ultimately, in the historic case of Keshavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala, put a break to the tug of war between parliament and the judicial controversies. The court held that the parliament could amend the constitution so long as it did not destroy the constitution basic feature. Let us try to understand the judicial interpretation of Article 368 in the pre-amended era by the apex court. In the past journey to the Supreme Court had to undertake to find the answer to the following question: whether the parliament had the power to amend the constitution, if at all the power exists, whether the power is limited or absolute, the power to amend the basic structure is available or not, whether the fundamental rights are supreme to that of a directive principles of state policy, further to achieve a social justice, whether the abrogation of fundamental rights is justified, whether it is a requirement in law to harmonize the directive principles to the fundamental rights. In this judicial evolution on an understanding of the concept of amendment has not initiated a discourse on judicial inquiry upon the true nature of the state and the governance of the Indian state, whether it is a democratic state or a republic state. If the courts were to declare that India is governed by republic, the inevitable consequence would be that so many amendments or an attempt to made by the varied majority government to impute the constitution of its teeth, protecting the fundamental right of the people. Every attempt of the government of the day to amend the substantive right would be possible only by constituting another constituent assembly or go for a referendum to get the concurrence of any of the effective changes affecting the right of the people. In a republican form of government, the representative of the people have no power to amend, modify, alter, repeal part 3 of the constitution. Therefore, the Constituent Assembly having been dissolved on repeal of Independence Act 1947, the representatives conferring power on themselves devoid of any basis for such an assumption of the power and altering part 3 is to be opposed to the doctrine of republicanism. The parliament widened the scope of article 368, which was amended by 24th amendment to the constitution, a non obstante clause stating that notwithstanding anything contained in the constitution, and the parliament empowered itself by stating in exercise of a constituent power to nullify all rights, privileges guaranteed under the constitution, as if the constituent power is inherent in the parliament, enabling themselves to add, repeal, vary any provisions of the constitution. It is the amendment that erosion of republic and a systematic destruction of the constitution at the will of the majority of the government began. A reading of unamended original article 368 would clearly indicate that the constitution would be amended only to the extent of certain articles. By implication, the power of amendment was previously not available for part 3 and part 4 of the Constitution of India. The presumption of the parliament that the amendment of article 368 conferred the power upon the parliament to amend the constitution by a simple majority in some cases and by 2/3 majority in some, which was in fact ultra vires of the Constitution of India. The doctrine of republicanism in India, the tragic consequence of this political culture is a steady stream of amendment in the name of progress that was mutilated the constitution. In the case of Keshavananda Bharati, 24th amendment to the constitution, wherein article 13 was the subject matter of adjudication, and 368 to get over the Golaknath ruling to assert the power of the parliament to amend the fundamental right was challenged before the Honorable Supreme Court. To undo the effect of this pronouncement, the following changes were brought to the article 13 and 368. The marginal note of article 368 was changed from the procedure for amendment to the constitution to the power of a parliament to amend the constitution and the procedure thereof. As a matter of abundant caution, a clause was added in article 368 declaring that article 13 shall not apply in any constitutional amendment made under 368 of the constitution. As a result, the constitutional validity of both the amendment 24th and 25th was challenged in Supreme Court in a writ petition under Article 32 in Keshavananda Bharati's case. The court held that the power to amend a constitution is to be found in Article 368 itself. Further, the court recognized that there is a distinction between an ordinary law and a constitutional law. Keshavananda did not concede an unlimited amending power of the parliament under Article 368. The amending power was now subject to one very significant qualification, that the amendment power cannot be exercised in such a manner as to destroy the basic and fundamental features of the constitution. A constitutional amendment which offends the basic structure of the constitution is held to be ultra vires. The Honorable Supreme Court has held that even though the power of parliament to amend the constitution is available, the basic structure of the constitution cannot be altered or changed. By virtue of this judgment, the implied limitations are imposed on the parliament. The Honorable Supreme Court, while considering Golaknath and Keshavananda Bharati, elaborately dealt with the scope and ambit of the definition of an amendment. The express or implied limitation of power of the parliament, but could not determine the true basic power from where the parliament could assume the power of the amendment. In the event if the Honorable Supreme Court had considered the power of the parliament in amending the constitution, which is governed by a republican form of governance, the Honorable Supreme Court would have definitely held that the parliament does not possess the right to amend the constitution, which will prejudicially affect the right of the makers of the constitution, that is, will of the people. The question that should have been posed before the Honorable Supreme Court, while considering the scope and ambit of the parliament's power to amend the constitution, should have been whether India is governed by a doctrine of republicanism and whether the power of amendment of constitution is vested with the parliament without reference to its people. The parliament, under an erroneous presumption that the constituent power is vested with them, amended Article 368 and made to appear that the power of the parliament possesses constituent power by virtue of Article 368. The parliament presumes that the sovereign power vests with them and they are empowered to amend the constitution. The parliament and the legislature are only empowered to making the laws specified in Schedule 7 of the constitution. Thus, they do not have the power to make the constitution or alter the constitution. Making of the constitution is a political power which absolutely vests with the people. Political power has been vested with the people by their victory in the independence movement. The monarch, the other state heads have surrendered to the people on demand of self-rule, Swaraj. Their power to amend, substitute, constitute cannot be conferred upon the group of people or their representatives and make one class of people at the mercy of their representatives or majoritarian group, wherein the right of a minority can be poor versus rich or vice versa, depending upon the circumstances. So, the question for our consideration in the post Keshavananda era is whether a parliament possesses the constituent power. The definition of the term constituent power makes it clear that the power of constituent assembly and the power of a parliament are two different and distinct powers. The power of the constituent assembly is to draft or adopt the constitution of a similar purpose, whereas the power of a parliament is the power to make law, but not for the constitution. The Constituent Assembly, which was the creature of a statute under the India Independence Act, stood dissolved by fiction of law on its repeal as per Article 395 of the Constitution of India. The people of the country have not entrusted or conferred the power on its representative to amend the constitution, particularly to amend the fundamental generic features the constitution. Therefore, the amending power conferred upon the parliament under 368 is without any authority of law. The present Article 368 resembles a state which has a parliamentary sovereignty and not people sovereign, and due to this overarching scope of Article 368, the fundamental rights enumerated in Part 3 do not possess minimum bar or protection from arbitrary action of the state, which is posed by the ordinary piece of legislation. Therefore, any government of the day can amend the constitution, substitute part 3 of the constitution. Hence, the presumption of power to amend the fundamental right chapter as if it is a democratic form of government and the same is ultra vires the republican form of governance which is originally adopted by the people of Republic of India. The Constituent Assembly never intended to govern the nation on a democratic principle. The objective resolution, the adoption of the constitution clearly in explicit terms retain the governance of the nation as sovereign republic, meaning thereby the people are supreme and the rule of law framed by them would govern them and not by a majority rule. Thus, unlike Britain, India was a people of sovereignty and not a parliamentary sovereignty. Therefore, India is a republic state with a democratic institution. It would be a misnomer to call India a democratic country. In the earlier cases, there was feeble attempt made to suggest that the right conferred upon the people can be altered by people themselves, not by the representatives. This anomalous situation has led to misdirection in the governance of the nation and the erosion of republican principles. The ultimate casualty in the majoritarianism is the sacrifice and the deprivation of a fundamental right reserved by the people to themselves under the constitution adopted by the people. As we understood in a previous lecture, in a republican form of government, the representatives of the people have no power to amend, modify, alter, repeal part 3 of the constitution. The power of amendment of the representatives is only to legislate as per schedule 7 of the constitution, and for the procedure for modification requires the amendment of part 5 of the constitution. The same was remarked by Nani Palkhiwala in his book The Constitution Defaced and Defied at page 29 as follows, quote, "No responsible leader ever suggested in the Constituent Assembly that in exercise of the amending power of the Parliament, the fundamental rights could be abrogated." A reading of the Constitution Assembly debates leave no doubt that if the leader had provided for abrogation of the fundamental rights by the Parliament in exercise of its amending power, larger section of the people, especially religious, linguistic minorities, would never have agreed to accept the Constitution. The integrity and identity of the India could never have been achieved. If, for instance, let us assume that the court were to declare that India is governed by republic, the inevitable consequence of an amendment to the substantive right would be made only by constituting another constituent assembly or would go for a referendum to get the concurrence of an effective change affecting the right of the people. The entire scheme of the constitution is such that it ensures the sovereignty and integrity of the country as a republic and the democratic way of life by the parliamentary institution based on free and fair election. The constitution, like ours, contains features which are so essential that they cannot be changed or destroyed. In any event, it cannot be destroyed from within. Thus, no doubt, courts have held that the fundamental right cannot be abrogated by the Parliament. It is a requirement in law to declare that a constitution of India is supreme and the right of the people cannot be abrogated by the act of the legislature because they are supreme and inalienable without the consent of the people in the state having formed on republican principles and not on the norms of majoritarian rule. It would be a dangerous proposition if the nation is governed by a doctrine of democracy in which the nation would be in the hands of a group of persons headed by leader. Under unfortunate circumstances, the leader may turn out to be an anarchist and the rule of law would take a back seat. Thus, every act of a parliament in amending the constitution will have to be looked from a prism of republicanism with a view to uphold the fundamental rights of a citizen. In a matter is examined from the point of view of democratic republic as one doctrine, then the desired outcome will not lead to the compliance of principles rule of law. Unfortunately, the apex court did not have an occasion to consider the nature of the governance under the constitution. Unfortunately, the parliament is under an assumption that it possesses the constituent power so as to amend the basic feature of the constitution. Any constitutional provision across its length and its breadth. Additionally, the successive government with no second thought are bold enough to outrightly amend the constitution and override the law laid down by the Supreme Court under Article 142 of the Constitution. The right of a citizen to uphold by the Supreme Court in exercise of its power would be taken away by a stroke of legislative pen. This practice of overriding precedent of the Supreme Court by a change in the basis of a precedent needs to be curtailed, as the same amounts to encroachment on the precedent of the Supreme Court opposed to the doctrine of rule of law. In an appropriate case, the Honorable Supreme Court may have to consider whether such a power of overriding the power of the Supreme Court or a declaration of law via the mode of re-legislation is permissible or not, having regard to the rule of law. Such an amendment makes Article 142 otious. The Constituent Assembly was very firm and went on to confer the fundamental rights based on UN declaration, and also were influenced by the freedom of the moment and a cherished dream of the freedom of the people of the nation. Due to the non-consideration of these questions, constitutional restraints as being ignored or having been bypassed to suit the political manifesto or agenda while sacrificing the right of a citizen. It is not too late in the day for a welfare of our country and future working of the Constitution to raise the questions in an appropriate case before the Honorable Supreme Court, and appealing to the Honorable Supreme Court as to whether India is governed by a doctrine of republic and is a republican form of government, or India is governed by a doctrine of democracy governed by a majoritarian rule, whether the sovereign power vests with the people or the parliament, whether a republican state with a rule of law can be converted into a majoritarian form of government, whether the amendment can be made so as to change the fundamental rights and the mode of governance, whether the parliament is empowered to confer upon itself the constituent power without making a proper reference to the people or reconstitution of a constituent assembly. In any event, it is held that India is governed by doctrine of republic and republican form of government, then all amendments made in the guise of vesting constituent power in the parliament would be void ab initio, and it would result in a further declaration that the fundamental rights are not amenable for amendment of the constitution by the parliament. I am of the firm opinion that the amendment are essential, but they should not destroy the basic identity of the constitution which the people of this nation gave onto ourselves. We have to preserve our identity, not destroy the same in the name of change, welfare, public good, balancing act while overriding on individual liberty. The Constituent Assembly did not give the function of amendment to Parliament, but gave the same with a certain implied riders and the scope of restricted. The eventual amendment make it evident that the Parliament has usurped the constituent power under the assumption that the people have withdrawn their right to amend, and that their power are coextensive of that of the Constituent Assembly. This misconception needs to be corrected, and the Parliament needs to be reminded that it has to function within the framework of the Constitution. It cannot stretch its hands to amend the constitutional safeguards. It has the administer within the confines of the principles laid down in our Constitution, and the power to amendment has to be used sparingly. This being the case, I appeal to the legal fraternity to raise these questions before the Honorable Supreme Court of India, and appeal to their Lordship to consider the question and review the earlier judgment and uphold the principles of our republican constitution. It is my wishful thinking that all judges of the Supreme Court in one quorum should decide this fundamental question, that is, whether India is governed by principles of republicanism or a democratic principle. If this exercise of inquiry is undertaken, it would be a landmark in the judicial history as to the judicial body across the world has been successful in distinguishing these two basic concepts and doctrines by laying down a workable yardstick.
Thanks for watching today's lecture. You will find the text script of the video lecture in the description box below. If you like a content, press a thumbs up, comment and subscribe to our channel, or log on to our official website www.neverbefore.legal. and share your thoughts. We would love to hear from you. Please press the bell icon and watch out for our next lecture.